This is how our brains look. So there's 3 bits. Well, actually, there's 4 bits. There's the primitive brain, which guides our sort of basic functions like breathing and blood circulation, etc. There's what's called the mammalian brain, which is fight and flight and quite emotional brain. And then there's the human brain up here, which is bigger, than the others. And this is where we differentiate ourselves from the animals. And there's 2 bits to the human brain. There's 2 separate bits, really, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. Now, the thing is, the left hemisphere is very literal and logical, and the right hemisphere is far more creative, big picture, whereas the left hemisphere is more detail. The thing is that all of the intelligent things, if you like, that we can use our brains for are all up in this human brain here. So the ability to empathize with others, the ability to come up with creative solutions, to explore options, to work out how to get to particular outcomes, and then to actually do it, plan action and plan ahead. All of those are elements of our human brain. However, when stimuli come in, what tends to happen is, if we're not careful, we go into fight and flight mode, which is down here. And the neural pathways that develop in our brains automatically send us to these bits of the brain down here, where we don't really want to go. We want to be able to get beyond that. And actually, use our brains to their full capacity up here by using our human brain. And we can only do that by developing new habits and new what are called neural pathways. Because basically what happens is, as you get a stimulus, if you go in a certain direction a few times, that pathway gets bigger. It's a bit like a motorway getting wider and wider, or a river getting wider and wider. And you tend to get into bad habits. So you've got to be aware of it. And then there are techniques you can use to get from being in the bad habits down here to the good habits, where you're actually in control of what you're thinking and you're using your human brain to its full capacity. Now, I mentioned this before, but Shirzad Chamine, in his book Positive Intelligence, explains this in great detail and goes through what he calls positive intelligence and PQ reps, or positive quotient repetitions, that enable you to get from thinking down here to thinking up there, and therefore prospering. Now, the other thing that works is mixing with the right sort of people, because if you mix with people who are positive and who display these sort of attributes here, then you're much more likely to as well. And if you mix with people who help you set goals and hold you accountable for your goals, then once you've set goals and you're thinking about your goals, you're up here. It tends to make you far more positive, as opposed to down here where you're reacting and it's fight and flight and anger and negative emotions. And therefore, being part of a group of like-minded people really helps you develop the habits to be coming up into the human brain here, rather than down into the mammalian and the primitive brain down here. And if you wanted to know how that could work for you, then have a look at businessroundtableuk.co.uk, and that will explain how being part of a mastermind group, which Napoleon Hill describes as one of his 13 key steps to riches in Think and Grow Rich, being part of this mastermind group can actually help you develop the ability to set goals, to be held accountable, and the habits, the neural pathways to take you up into using your human brain, and rather than down into negative emotions and using your mammalian brain and the fight and flight reactions. So it's the whole thing's a really interesting area. Hope you found that useful. Thanks very much for watching today.